Lieutenant Arya Kane sat alone in the control room of Outpost Vega 7, staring at the endless stretch of stars outside the reinforced glass. The silence of space had always been her comfort, yet tonight it felt heavy, almost suffocating. Somewhere deep in the black void, an unrecorded signal shimmered faintly on the outpost's long-range scanners. It pulsed with a rhythm that made her chest tighten. She leaned forward, squinting at the display. "What in the universe?" she muttered, reaching for the comms panel. Every instinct in her body told her that this was no ordinary signal. It wasn't human, and it wasn't any alien species humanity had ever catalogued. Her fingers hovered over the console. The energy signature was enormous, far larger than a standard ship. Its pattern was erratic but deliberate, as if it were alive. Arya's mind flashed back to her last mission, 5 years ago, to the uncharted sector of the Orion Reach. That mission had been her first encounter with the Sireni, a species humans still barely understood. Their biology was almost liquid-like, translucent skin and glowing organs inside that shifted as they moved. But what set them apart most was their telepathy, the ability to touch the mind directly, to whisper into someone's thoughts as easily as speaking aloud. And the one she remembered most clearly: Lyra. Lyra had been the Sireni princess. Arya's team had first met her during a diplomatic mission meant to establish peaceful contact. But when rogue mercenaries ambushed them, it became clear that Lyra's people were under attack, just as humanity was a pawn in a larger game. Arya had been trapped, a plasma beam scorching the floor behind her. When Lyra had appeared, she had reached into Arya's mind, felt her fear, and in a way only the Sireni could, calmed her. Then, with strength and speed beyond human comprehension, she had thrown Arya out of danger. After that, the team had lost contact. The last transmission had been a frantic warning from Lyra. Trust no one who wears no uniform of your world. And then, she had vanished. Arya had thought she was dead, or worse, lost to the infinite void forever. Now, staring at the new signal, a chill ran down Arya's spine. The feeling of recognition was immediate and unmistakable. The comms panel flickered. Static first. Then a single voice whispered, soft and almost impossibly distant. "Do you still remember me?" Arya froze, her fingers trembling over the controls. Her heart raced faster than she thought possible. The voice, it wasn't coming through the speakers. It was in her head, clear, direct, personal. Lyra. It had to be. She staggered back from the console, gripping the edge of the desk. Memories crashed into her like meteor strikes. Lyra's delicate, almost liquid-like features. The soft glow of her skin, the warmth of her mind pressing against Arya's in that life-or-death moment. Arya's knees weakened, and she sank into her chair. She couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe properly. The outpost's alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed across the room, filling the space with an urgent warning. The scanners screamed with activity. The ship, the massive, black silhouette from the signal, was approaching. Its shape was alien, elegant, and terrifying. Unlike human ships, which were angular and mechanical, this vessel seemed alive. It pulsed as if breathing, with surfaces that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. "Lieutenant Kane, report," a voice barked over her earpiece. Commander Rivas, her superior, sounded tense. Arya's voice shook as she tried to respond. There's a ship, unknown class, approaching Vega 7. It's unusual." Rivas's voice tightened. "Unusual or hostile? I don't know, but I think it's her." There was a pause. "Who?" "The Sireni. Princess Lyra." Arya's words felt foreign even to her ears. She rubbed her temples, trying to force her thoughts into order. She had spent 5 years burying that memory. focusing on training, on duty. And now, here she was, trembling in front of the very thing she had tried to forget. The massive ship stopped in orbit above the outpost. Its surface shimmered, like liquid glass catching starlight, and then a section of it opened, revealing a docking port. But no human vessel emerged. Five, rebooting. Instead, a small craft detached, gliding silently toward the planet's surface. Arya's orders were clear: monitor and wait. But every instinct in her screamed to run. Her body shook uncontrollably as she prepared for what might come next. The small craft landed in a clearing near the outpost's perimeter. A figure emerged, tall, graceful, radiant. Arya's breath caught. Lyra. She hadn't changed much in appearance, yet everything about her had evolved. Her glow was softer now, almost ethereal, and her eyes, if they could be called eyes, shimmered with a depth that humans could not comprehend. Lyra's voice entered Arya's mind again, calm and haunting. You remembered. I was never gone. Arya's legs refused to move at first. She felt paralyzed by emotion, fear, disbelief, awe, and something she hadn't expected. Relief. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She straightened her back, gripping the side of the console, and finally whispered, Lyra, you're alive. Yes, Lyra replied, the words echoing in her mind. Alive. And I have come because the danger we thought defeated has returned. Stronger. Closer. Your world. Your species. It will not survive without my help. Arya's pulse hammered in her ears. She had heard rumors of rogue mercenaries, of interstellar pirates gaining new technology. But nothing had prepared her for this. And yet, deep down, she knew it was true. Lyra had always been able to see things beyond human perception. To understand threats humans couldn't even sense. Her comms crackled. Revis's voice was sharp. Kane! Are you seeing this? Arya swallowed hard. Yes, sir. I'm seeing it. But it's not an attack. Not exactly. Another way. IBCO. Revis's sigh was audible, frustrated. Then tell me what it is. Arya hesitated. How could she explain? How could she make them understand that the person approaching the outpost was not merely alien, but someone who had saved her life, someone who now held knowledge that could prevent humanity's destruction? I don't know how to explain it, Commander. There was silence on the line. Then Revis's voice, sharp as steel. Lieutenant, stay at your station. Observe. Report everything. Do not engage until I give the order. Arya nodded, though no one could see her. Her fingers hovered over the console again, scanning every movement of the small craft as it approached. Lyra's presence seemed to warp the air. Subtle waves of energy rippling outward. The ground near the craft glimmered faintly, as if responding to her arrival. Arya's mind wandered back to that fateful day 5 years ago. The battle with the mercenaries. The roar of plasma. The moment when Lyra's hand had brushed against hers, transferring a surge of strength and calm that only the Sirenai could give. The memory was vivid, almost painful, but it anchored her. She had survived because Lyra had chosen her, and now she had returned, not just as a memory, but as a living being with a mission that could determine the fate of her species. The airlock of the small craft hissed, and a faint glow spread from within. Lyra's form solidified in the doorway. She paused, her gaze locking on Arya through the reinforced glass of the outpost. Then, without warning, she stepped forward, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Arya's body shook uncontrollably. Her training, her experience, her years of exploration, they all seemed to vanish under the weight of the moment. She was no longer a lieutenant. She was a human standing on the edge of something vast, terrifying, and beautiful. The outpost sensors picked up a subtle energy surge from Lyra, one that radiated not just power, but a deep intelligence, a connection to the universe that humans could barely comprehend. Arya realized that the choice before her was monumental. She could let fear control her, or she could embrace the past, trust Lyra, and step into a partnership that could change everything. The first part of their reunion was over. The shadow of the past had returned, and with it, the promise of a future neither species could face alone. Arya took a deep breath, forcing herself to steady her shaking hands. She was ready. She had no choice but to step forward. The voice came again, softer this time, like a caress through her mind. "Do you still remember me?" "Yes," Arya whispered, her voice trembling but firm. And for the first time in years, she felt the impossible truth. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but she was not alone. The barren planet beneath Outpost Vega 7 stretched like an endless gray ocean. Craters pocked the surface, and strange luminescent plants flickered faintly in the dim light of the system's distant star. The small craft that had carried Lyra from her ship landed gently on the rocky ground. Arya's boots crunched against the dust as she approached, her pulse racing faster with each step. Lyra stood at the edge of the craft, her translucent skin glowing softly, illuminating the desolate terrain. Her elongated limbs and delicate form looked fragile. Yet there was an undeniable strength in her stance. When she raised her hand, the glow intensified, sending ripples across the planet's surface. "Lieutenant Arya Kane." Lyra's voice entered her mind again, calm and melodic, yet carrying a weight of urgency. "You remember the promise we made, even when we were young, in the halls of the Sireni?" Arya's throat tightened. She did remember. In their first meeting, 5 years ago, Lyra had promised to protect her if ever their paths crossed again. Back then, Arya had been naive, overwhelmed by the beauty and power of the alien species. But the promise had felt real. And now, standing before her, Lyra's words carried a gravity that made Arya's hands shake. "Yes," Arya whispered aloud, though it was clear Lyra could hear her even without words. Lyra stepped closer, her glowing form bending light in unusual ways. "Then you will understand why I am here. The mercenaries, the ones who attacked us before, they have returned. They have grown stronger. Their technology now rivals even the combined fleets of the surrounding star systems. They seek to ignite war, to manipulate every species for their profit. Humans, Sireni, all are in danger." Arya felt the weight of the warning deep in her chest. Memories of that previous attack returned the screams, the plasma fire, the fear that had nearly consumed her. But she also remembered Lyra's calm presence in the storm, her voice soothing, guiding, and saving. She had trusted the alien then. Could she do it again now, when the stakes were even higher? Lyra's telepathy continued, reaching into Arya's mind, showing her glimpses of the mercenary fleet. Massive ships, bristling with weapons, engines glowing with deadly energy. The sight made Arya's stomach twist. Humanity alone could not hope to survive against such overwhelming force. "You must trust me," Lyra said, her voice soft but firm. "I have learned much in the years since we last met. You must learn to trust yourself as well. Only together can we prepare for what is coming." Arya swallowed hard, her fear battling with determination. "I trust you," she said, though even she was unsure if her own voice was steady enough to convince herself. Lyra nodded, her glowing form radiating an intensity that seemed to fill the entire clearing. "Good. Then, let us begin." The Sireni princess led Arya toward her ship, hovering silently in the thin atmosphere. Its surface pulsed and flowed like liquid metal, bending the faint light of the star above. The architecture was unlike anything humans had ever built. Organic curves twisted in impossible ways, glowing pathways winding like veins through the structure. Inside, Arya felt disoriented. Gravity seemed to shift subtly with her movement, and the walls pulsed, faintly, as if alive. Lyra moved effortlessly, and Arya struggled to keep pace, her human legs feeling clumsy and slow. "This ship, it's alive," Arya whispered, more to herself than to Lyra. "Yes," Lyra replied in her mind. "The ship is an extension of my people. It responds to thought, emotion, and energy. Here, you will be tested, not by weapons, but by your mind and spirit." Arya paused. "Tested?" Lyra's form shimmered, almost as if laughing. "You are human. You see threats in the physical. You trust what you can touch and feel. Here, you must trust your mind. To face the mercenaries, to survive what is coming, you must understand the depth of connection between thought, emotion, and energy. You must learn to channel it. And I will help you." Arya's heartbeat quickened. She had faced countless dangers in space, hostile aliens, sabotage, navigational disasters, but this was different. This was a test of something she could not see, a challenge that could either break her mind or make her stronger than she had ever imagined. The first trial began in a chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly. Walls glowed with faint patterns, shifting as if alive. Lyra instructed Arya to focus on her memories, her deepest fears, her most painful losses. The images flooded Arya's mind. The loss of her crewmates. The sound of Lyra's voice fading in the chaos. The feeling of helplessness as she had watched others fall. "Do not fight them," Lyra's voice guided her. "Face them. Understand them. Transform fear into focus. Pain into power." Arya closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. She felt herself trembling as she relived the battles, the moments when death had been closer than she could bear. But gradually, she began to feel a strange energy building inside her, a connection to the universe she had never felt before. It was subtle at first, a tingling in her limbs, a warmth in her chest. She opened her eyes to see the chamber responding, lights pulsing with her heartbeat, patterns shifting with her thoughts. Lyra observed silently, guiding her with gentle telepathy. "You are learning. The humans are strong, yes, but only when they trust themselves. This is your strength, Arya. Your mind, your courage, your connection to life itself. Hours or perhaps minutes. Time seemed different. Inside the ship passed. Arya practiced, focusing her energy, pushing her fear into control, learning to extend it outward. She felt as though the air itself responded, bending subtly with her will. Finally, Lyra spoke. "Enough for now. You are ready for the next step. But first, you must understand your enemy. Come." They approached a large viewing chamber, and the mercenary fleet appeared on the holographic display. Massive ships, bristling with weapons, moved in formation. Lyra touched the display with a glowing hand. And Arya suddenly perceived more than just ships. She could sense the intention, the aggression, the greed that fueled them. She could almost feel their minds, coarse and violent, calculating their attack. "They are not invincible," Lyra said. "But their strategy is ruthless. They exploit fear and division. They are clever, but they do not understand trust, courage, or unity." Arya's hands tightened into fists. "Then we show them," she said, determination sharpening her voice. "We show them what humans and Sirenai can do together." Dawn. 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 Lyra smiled, the glow of her form intensifying. "Exactly. But first, you must trust fully. I will guide you, but your actions must come from your courage, not my direction. Can you do this?" Arya hesitated for only a moment. Yes, she said firmly, though her mind still raced with doubt. I can. Lyra extended her hand, and Arya felt the telepathic connection deepen. Memories, thoughts, and emotions flowed between them, like a river. Arya saw the battles Lyra had fought alone, the losses she had endured, and the wisdom she had gained. In turn, Lyra sensed Arya's determination, resilience, and humanity. It was an exchange unlike anything Arya had ever experienced. She felt stronger, more aware, and more capable. Hours turned into a blur as they trained together. Arya learned to focus her fear into energy, to sense threats before they appeared, and to manipulate the environment subtly with concentration. The connection between human courage and Sirenai wisdom created a synergy neither species could achieve alone. Arya began to understand why Lyra had returned not just for friendship, but because the survival of both species depended on their cooperation. Finally, Lyra paused. You are ready. But the true test will come when we confront them. You will lead the first strike, using your human ingenuity alongside my energy manipulation. Do you understand? Arya nodded, though her hands still trembled. I understand. And I'm ready. Lyra's glow softened, her form flickering gently. Good. Remember, Arya, fear is not your enemy. It is your guide. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Trust yourself, and trust me. Together, we can turn the tide. As Arya prepared to leave the ship, she felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. The mercenaries were coming, and the fate of her people, her planet, and countless others rested on her shoulders. But she was not alone. For the first time in years, she felt hope. She had Lyra beside her, and together, they were stronger than anything the universe could throw at them. The barren landscape of the planet stretched before them, quiet and deceptive. But soon, the silence would be shattered. The mercenaries were on their way, and when they arrived, the combined courage of a human and the wisdom of a Sirenai princess would be tested like never before. Arya took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Her hands no longer shook as much. She was ready to fight, ready to trust, and ready to face the shadows of the past. The war was coming. And this time, she would not face it alone. The sky over the barren planet glowed faintly as the distant sun dipped behind jagged craters. Arya Kane stood on the edge of the plateau, staring at the horizon where the mercenary fleet had appeared. Hundreds of ships, massive and menacing, filled the blackness of space. Their engines pulsed like cold mechanical hearts, their weapons aimed at the planet's surface. Arya's hands gripped the controls of the hybrid vessel Lyra had helped her prepare. It was a combination of human engineering and Sirenai technology. Sleek, adaptive, and alive. Every curve of its hull seemed to pulse with energy, responding to her thoughts, just as Lyra had taught her. Lyra hovered beside her, her form glowing softly, eyes reflecting the approaching threat. Are you ready, Arya? She asked, her voice clear in Arya's mind. Arya took a deep breath, steadying her racing heartbeat. Yes, I'm ready. The first wave of mercenary ships surged forward. Their weapons fired, streaks of lethal plasma tearing through the atmosphere. Arya instinctively flinched but remembered Lyra's words. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. She focused. Fear transformed into energy, coursing through her body. The ship responded, shields flaring, engines accelerating, reacting to her emotions. Her courage. With a sharp thought, she directed a pulse of energy toward the first wave, disrupting the weapon systems of several ships. They spiraled out of formation, a testament to the power of human instinct guided by Sirenai wisdom. Lyra's glow intensified, her hands weaving patterns in the air as if conducting an invisible symphony. The energy between them built a connection that expanded outward, rippling through the atmosphere and into space. Ships faltered, sensors failed, and the mercenary fleet hesitated, unprepared for such an unusual tactic. "Remember," Lyra said, her voice calm but urgent. "Think like a human. Act like a sireni. Fear is your guide. Strength comes from trust." Arya nodded, diving into the battle. She twisted the ship, dodging plasma blasts and energy fields. Each movement was precise, instinctive. Her human intuition predicted enemy patterns, while her Sireni training allowed her to manipulate energy with subtle gestures. She felt alive, connected, unstoppable. The mercenary commander, a towering figure in a mechanical exosuit, realized that the humans were fighting differently. They expected fear to control them, but Arya was using it. The fleet fired in coordinated volleys, trying to overwhelm her, but she anticipated every move. She targeted the largest ships first, using bursts of energy to disable engines, then diverted attention to the smaller fighters, sending them spiraling into the void. Lyra's voice echoed in her mind. "Do not fight alone. You are strongest together." Arya glanced at the Sireni princess. Lyra's energy flared outward, a protective wave shielding the human ships and destabilizing enemy sensors. The hybrid vessel pulsed with synchronized power, a combination of human skill and Sireni might. The mercenaries had never faced an opponent like this. Their strategies, honed to perfection against predictable foes, faltered in the face of human adaptability and alien insight. Hours or maybe minutes, time had no meaning in the heat of battle past. The mercenary fleet was pushed back, crippled, and scattered. Yet Arya knew the war was not over. The commander was still out there, still dangerous, and still underestimating her. Suddenly, the enemy commander activated a massive energy cannon, aimed directly at the planet. If it fired, Outpost Vega 7 and everything near it would be annihilated. Arya's pulse surged. She had only one chance. "Lyra," she thought urgently. "We have to stop it. Now." Lyra's glow intensified, and together, their minds merged. Arya felt her own fear, her determination, and her anger intertwining with Lyra's centuries of wisdom. They became one in purpose, one in action. With a surge of combined energy, Arya directed a concentrated wave toward the cannon. The hybrid vessel responded like a living being, twisting and expanding in impossible ways. The cannon overloaded, sparks and flames bursting outward. The enemy commander staggered in shock, his carefully calculated attack destroyed by the unpredictable force of human courage combined with alien power. "Now!" Lyra's thought cut through. Arya pushed forward, striking the remaining ships with precision. One by one, the mercenary vessels fell, engines rupturing, weapons disabled, systems collapsing. The commander's fleet was scattered, broken, and retreating into the void. When the battle ended, silence returned, heavy but calm. Arya exhaled, realizing her hands no longer shook. She had done it. Not alone, but together with Lyra. Lyra's voice entered her mind again, gentle this time. "You remembered, and you acted. That is why you are worthy. Courage is not only human, but universal. You have proven it today." Arya blinked, trying to catch her breath. I couldn't have done it without you." "You could," Lyra replied. "You always had the strength. I only helped you see it." The human and Sireni stood together on the plateau, looking at the wreckage of the mercenary fleet drifting silently through space. Arya felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had faced the impossible and survived. She had learned to trust herself, to harness fear, and to act with precision, courage, and intelligence. "Arya," Lyra said, her glow softening. "This is only the beginning. There will be others who try to exploit fear, who seek to divide species, who wish to destroy trust. But you have seen what is possible when humans and Sireni work together. That is the true power. The power of unity, courage, and understanding. Arya nodded slowly, absorbing every word. The universe was dangerous. Yes, but it was also full of wonder. And now, she understood something deeper. The strength of humanity was not just in weapons or ships, but in its adaptability, courage, and the ability to connect with others, even with species far beyond comprehension. The outpost commander's voice crackled over the comms, breaking the moment. "Kane, are you there?" "Report." Arya straightened, her voice steady. "Sir, the fleet, it's retreating. The mercenaries have been neutralized. Vega 7 is safe. But there's more. Much more beyond what we imagined. We are not alone, and there are allies in places we never expected." "Understood," Rivas replied, relief evident in his tone. "Good work, Lieutenant. I'll relay this to command. Stay alert. More may be coming." Arya turned to Lyra, who simply smiled. "Then we prepare," Lyra said. "But remember, today was proof. Courage, intelligence, and trust, these are the keys. Humans can shine, even in the darkest stars." Arya allowed herself a small smile, feeling the trembling that had haunted her for days finally fade. She knew the battles ahead would be challenging, but she was no longer afraid. She had learned that true strength came not from denying fear, but from facing it, understanding it, and acting despite it. Together, human and Sireni, they watched the stars, knowing that the universe was vast and full of dangers, but also full of opportunities for those willing to trust, fight, and remember. Lyra's voice, soft and lingering in Arya's mind, was the final reassurance. "You remembered, Arya. You remembered. And that made all the difference." And for the first time in years, Arya felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The war might not be over, but humanity had shown that it could rise to meet impossible odds. With courage, unity, and the guidance of allies like Lyra, humans could shine brighter than any darkness in the cosmos. The stars stretched endlessly above them, a universe waiting to be explored, fought for, and understood. And Arya Kane, human lieutenant, would face it with courage, intelligence, and heart, ready to protect her people, her allies, and the fragile peace of the stars. She took a deep breath, standing tall beside the alien princess, ready for whatever came next, because she had remembered. And in remembering, she had become unstoppable.